Hey everybody, before this week's show starts, I wanted to remind you I have a new video podcast called the Tag Team Talent Podcast. That's the Tag Team Talent Podcast, available on YouTube and Spotify, where I share videos of all the comics you've been listening to all these years. So if you get a chance, check out the Tag Team Talent Podcast right away.
This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Hey, welcome to this week's show. I am so excited. One of my oldest and dearest friends in stand-up comedy is on the phone with us today. He now lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Tim Bedore.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you all, one, for showing up. Thank you.
The crowd is going crazy. It's so good to have...
The one is going crazy, yes.
Tim back in the house. Tim Bedore, for those listening to this podcast, is a gentleman that I met through radio. I'm going to have him tell the story. But it turned from radio into stand-up, into a real career for him, and a long, lifelong relationship and friendship. And it's just exciting to have you on the show today. Tim, good to have you here. How's life?
Good. Long story short as I can make it, grew up in the Midwest, ended up in California, and then at a certain point, my wife and I said, you know, we would like to be able to afford a home, and we left Los Angeles for the Midwest, where you can afford a home, or we could.
Yeah, no, I hear it's incredible.
Yes. No, it's a wonderful place. My wife is from here. My daughter loves it here, you know.
So that's his lovely wife, Karen, and his beautiful daughter, Claire, and they're all enjoying being near Karen's family in Minnesota. So when it comes to comedy, as I alluded to in the intro, we met through radio. But why don't you share your memories on how you came to know Laughs Unlimited?
Well, you know, it's interesting because we're about the same age, and we both were starting comedic endeavors at the same time in the same place. Your original club, which was in the Delta Queen, was the name of it, right?
Yeah, good memory. The banquet room of the Delta Queen restaurant in Old Sacramento.
So I was on the air, hopefully doing, and I had always not just wanted to be a disc jockey. Clearly, I was interested in comedy, whether it was stand-up or hosting a talk show or whatever it was. And on the air, I did hopefully some interesting, funny things that most disc jockeys don't do, some little features. And
now let them know what station were you on at the time?
KZAP, which was a huge station at the time.
Oh, KZAP was always one of the rockin' best stations. I got to tell you, I'm going to take a side course and let you talk again for a second, Tim, but I wanted to let everybody know that one of the real advantages of having the comedy club in the early 80s with a radio station like KZAP in town, in those days, radio was so fun and casual. I was able to walk in to the studio where Tim or Bob Keller would be on the air, and I could literally hang out for an hour or two, and we would just have so much fun. I'm sure you remember it that way.
Oh, yeah. No, radio was healthy. It was making money. They were pleased to have comics to interview. It was not certainly as tight. I mean, I went from one being in radio and interviewing comics to then being a comedian and traveling. And of course, part of the deal was the club in town would get you on the morning show, the top morning show, or whatever morning show they could get you on. And radio just got so strange that over time, they did not want comedians on live anymore because they were afraid of what you would say. It regressed to that point where if they would do an interview, they wanted to tape it, which was just this psychotic thing. But, you know, as comedy, stand-up comedy got dirtier and dirtier and more aggressive and whatever, I guess
It did change, but so did radio. For example, I was able to do live drop-ins with KZAP, but also Y92, the Paul and Phil show. And those relationships and that being on air where tens of thousands might be listening on their way to work in the morning really helped substantiate Laughs Unlimited and was really a strong marketing arm for me in the 80s. But by the 90s, radio got so corporate and, like you said, got tight that, what do you mean you want to walk in? No, there's security and bulletproof glass in the front. It was crazy.
Yeah, it just how, why, what, but it definitely did that. And it got very concerned and very afraid of what comedians were going to say. Now, the story, and I don't know if you remember this part, but you were bringing guys in. And what was interesting, you were in the early days of club explosion. You were ahead of the curve by a bit. The comics so I would come out and host. I wasn't even a stand-up. I wasn't even doing jokes. You gave me, standard issue, the here's how you MC tips, and I would just get out, and I was just so interested in it, and hosting your show. And I would have the comics on the radio, and we'd plug it and push it. So, I made lifelong friendships with, the cream of the crop, essentially.
Oh, we were lucky to work with the best in those days.
Really, all the top comics were coming through Sacramento, coming up from LA, primarily. So then they certainly helped me out a lot as I'm starting to come up. They would get me bookings on their shows, and, that was a big leg up for me, and learned a lot. You'd sit around. I mean, literally, you're sitting around talking with Shanling or Bob Saget, who were the headliners, and they're giving you advice on how to develop your act and why, as a radio guy, I should get out and do stand-up and whatever. So it was just a hugely helpful, fertile, fun crowds coming out. I mean, this was all new. Stand-up was this fresh, exotic animal that everybody wanted to be involved with.
Yeah, and in your case, you were able to transfer or emerge from the emulsion of radio and being an MC to being an opening act, then a feature act, and you became one of my standard, very, very funny headliners.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like baseball. There was this process by which you move up level to level, and the group essentially comics, but club owners who wanted to see people progress and help out, help that along, and there was a real system for it. Now there isn't, because clubs are not as healthy at all, and it has changed the nature of what younger comics do, because they're essentially now working in bars.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the last decade moving forward where the future comedy world is going to go, because that nurturing procession of open mics to nightclubs to being able to do a spot on a TV show like Merv Griffin or Johnny Carson to maybe getting a sitcom is all gone and all different.
All gone.
And that's where we were getting geniuses like, Robin Williams, Jerry Seinfeld, I can go on, that all work their way up through that progress, getting better and better and better. And that doesn't exist anymore. And that's why I tell people I feel like we were a part of the golden age of stand-up.
Oh, yeah. No, without a doubt.
But
there was a lot of development that was possible because of, one, there were crowds 4, 5, 6 nights a week. And the other thing, I was just talking about this, in fact, 2 days ago with Jake Johansson.
Great guy.
Was here. Great guy, great comic. 47 Letterman appearances. He's one of the best. If you're in a comedy club, a dedicated comedy club, and there's only 4 people left in the audience on an open mic night or a showcase night or whatever, you can still, 1, make those 4 people laugh, and 2, most importantly, learn something.
Oh,
You
yeah,
can
definitely.
develop.
Definitely.
But if you're in a bar and the comedy is background music for patrons, or there's 12 comics in the back of the bar, and that's who you're trying to make laugh, that is not going to help you progress as a comedian.
No.
Unless making comics laugh is your only goal.
Right.
And that's not a good, actually, it would seem like it might be a good idea, but it tends to make people do far more gross or dirty.
Comics
or
are a horrible
stuff.
Comics are a tough audience, and so you always have to take it at least an edge too far to even get something. In being after the after show parties and the things that we did privately with comics, we would see that all the time, and it was hilarious. But it wasn't the same kind of stuff you wanted to share with a paying audience.
No. That's what makes comics laugh. Something that's more extreme, because we've heard it all before.
Right.
So you had to go a little extra.
Here's a quick. I'm going to share a quick side story because that's what this podcast is all about. My memories come back. It was in the original room at the Delta Queen, and Bob Saget and Dave Coulier were working my show together. Dave was featuring, Saget was headlining, and it was after the show, and we're just hanging out having drinks, and all of a sudden I see Bob and Dave passing something underneath the table, and so we're talking and joking, but between them they had their own joke going, and I finally called them on it, and they pulled up and they had a little piece of paper, and they'd gotten, Bob was sending Dave a folded up piece of paper that had some lint and stuff in it and said, "Dave, here's some of my pubic hair." I mean, it's funny between 2 comics that are drinking late at night, but kind of gross if you were just to tell your neighbor next door, right?
Right. No, I mean, that's the thing, because you know where it's coming from. You know that the racist or the sexist or the ageist humor is not the real thing. It's the thing that's funny to us about these things is the inappropriateness and that you went there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, let's try to bring this back down to the timeline. So do you have any...
Well, okay, so here's what happened. I don't know if you remember this or not, but you were starting to have some success. Butts were happening in seat. People were showing up, and Bruce Baum was coming up, and I was playing Marty Feldman Eyes on the radio. There was this synergy. And then the radio station said, no more free appearances, no more free plugs. He's got to start spending some money on advertising.
I remember, of course I do.
And you didn't have that kind of budget. I mean, every week was a different week. 50 people, 250 people show up. You're eating or you're not eating.
Right. And back in those days, radio was a premier entertainment format, so it was very expensive to advertise.
It was expensive, very expensive. So it was really kind of unrealistic.
Didn't it lead to you getting fired?
Yeah. And here's the story. So KZAP was phenomenally popular at that time. 1 in every 2 teens were listening to us. 30+% of male, female, 18 to 34-year-olds, 32 and 33% were listening to us. It was phenomenally successful and hugely lucrative for the owners of this station. And we were not getting paid, even remotely close.
Oh, the DJs always made minimal money. People don't realize.
But at the news talk stations, at the country station, that was number 2, I think, in the market, they were making maybe 3 times more than the KZAP.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jocks were making. Oh, yeah.
With KZAP's popularity, you guys didn't get as much as the country station?
The reason for it is that, you're young, you're starting out, you want to do rock and roll, and you were willing to do it for nothing to get started. But the country guys and the news talk guys, they were older, they had families. If you wanted them to do that kind of work, it kind of just was you have to pay them more. And we were just frustrated. We were making more money. KZAP was making more money than anybody in town by the longest shot. So at a party one night, staff party, a few of us were talking, and half joking, a few of us were thinking, well, what about a union? You know, there's a union in San Francisco. There was one or two union stations in Sacramento, and that would raise up our pay from, you know, like $300 a week to $750 a week. And so we would start to see some money if we unionized. And it wasn't really super serious, but we did call the San Francisco local of the broadcast union, AFTRA, and just ask what would be involved. Well, management got wind of that, and they didn't want that to happen.
Dun, 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 dun.
So they thought I was one of the ringleaders of this effort to unionize.
Oh.
And they conspired to fire me with cause. And the way that they did that, they had told me, no more comics on for Laughs Unlimited. Don't play Bruce Baum's album anymore unless they start buying ad time. I said, fine. If that's your decision, that's your decision. Can I promote when I'm hosting there? Yes. So that was their dictum. I said, fine. One day, I get a call from the program director who says, hey, you know what? Is your friend Bruce Baum at Laughs Unlimited this weekend? Yeah, he is. Yeah, go ahead and play Marty Feldman Eyes and plug the show. Go ahead. Well, I thought we weren't doing that. I changed my mind. Go ahead.
Oh, it sounds like
so I do it. I do that on Saturday. Monday, they fire me for breaking their rules about...
Geez.
And they did it to set me up so there'd be cause. You know,
right.
They thought that would put them in a better position if I...
So you couldn't sue them or something. You know, I knew the story about your work at Laugh somehow resolving for you losing your job at KZAP, although you went on to a great comedy career. So the transition was probably going to happen sooner or later. But I didn't know about the union part. That's interesting. They were afraid of having to pay people a fair wage.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, at that point then, I quickly got a job in Houston, which is a far bigger market. And then actually that's where I more or less started doing stand-up instead of just hosting, you know, writing
more
material.
Regular sets and writing. Yeah. I got to tell you, your material was very memorable. To this day, when Jill and I are golfing and I'm in a golf cart and I take any sort of hill, I yell out, Rommel, you Nazi bastard.
I read your book. It was good that it forced me to move on, but it was, you know, kind of raw when it happened that they would do that. But that's radio in a nutshell.
Well, I apologize for our part of it.
No. So then, you know, I go to Houston for a year. Bill Hicks and Stan Kennison were the hot comics at the local club that I, you know, was trying to get in with and did. And then I moved to San Francisco in radio and then really dive into stand-up. And then one of the first places after I got out of radio in 85, the station was sold, and I thought, you know, enough of this. I just want to do stand-up. One of the first clubs I think I headlined was yours.
Well, of course. It's everyone's first big gig.
Yes, it really, and, you know, it was such an important cog in my life that, you know, you knew this club, they were supportive, you know, whatever. So, yeah, your club and you and Jill loom large in my comedic life. And one of the more interesting experiences in stand-up happened for me. And I talk about it. I have a podcast now called An Agnostic's Guide to Heaven. We can talk about that in a bit. But it primarily is a storytelling exercise. And one of the stories that I've always wanted to use somehow in my life, because I just find it fascinating, can't figure out the why of it.
Please share it now.
Yes. Stand-up comedy, you know, as long as you think you understand it, you think you know everything after 10 years, and then 15 years into it, you realize you know more now than you did at 10. And then 30 years in is like, well, now I'm maybe understanding things in a fuller, it's like golf. You'll never completely dominate this thing. But this one, I still don't understand what the hell could have possibly happened. And it's just fascinating to me. So I'm driving up from LA to do your club. I've got my car on the 5 going north. And I've got the cruise control set at 83 because if you keep it under 85, the CHP tend to think that you're a responsible driver.
Exactly.
So I'm just cruising up a 6-hour drive.
Right.
And I'm passing a cattle truck that's going 82. So I'm inching past it. And, they got 100 head of Angus or whatever beef cattle. And one of them has got its eyeball sticking out one of the air holes, and he's just staring at me, looking at me. And as I'm inching past, my mind just went immediately to a telepathic communication with this cow.
You and the cow connected.
Connected. And the cow is saying to me, "Hey, man, get me out of here, man. I know where we're going, man. Stop the truck. I don't want to go to the slaughterhouse. Get me off this truck." I start talking back to the cow. I start having a conversation in my mind, not kidding around. I mean, this is kind of how comics are, people. This is how I started having a conversation with this cow. And I was trying to tell the cow that I can't stop the truck. I understand you don't want to go to the slaughterhouse. I get that. But I can't stop your truck. You're in an 18-wheeler. I'm in a Honda Prelude. There's really not a lot I can do here. And he says, "No, man, if you go up to the cab, beep, and then point back like there's something wrong with the trailer, the drivers are trained to stop. They got to protect the load. He will stop." And I said, "Well, even if I could get that part of it done, you can't let 100 cows run off. I mean, I can't let you guys all go out. It'd be dangerous, traffic." He said, "No, man, don't let them all go. Just me."
Selfish cow.
And I said, "Well, I don't mean to be insulting, but you all look the same. How will I know which one is you?" He said, "You'll remember me. I was the one that talked."
So
I thought, well, he's right. Think about it. You stop a truck, you let 100 cows off, 99 say moo, one says, "Told you it'd work." That's the guy. That's the one.
That's the cow. Oh,
That's
man.
the cow.
No.
So, as this is happening, I'm driving up, and this conversation happened in my head, and I just thought, when I woke up from it, I thought, oh, my God, that was so funny, or that's so rich, or whatever. So I kind of made notes, or I recorded thoughts on it. Couldn't wait to get to the club. I get there at 7:45. I'm on stage an hour later, and about 20 minutes into my set, it was a Tuesday night crowd, nice group, having fun. 20 minutes in, I take a chance.
You tell the cow story.
I tell the cow story. Now, if as a stand-up, you've got your tried and true material, and let's say it typically gets a response of X. That's the last value, X. New material typically might be 20 if you're good at it, if you experience 50, 60, 70% of X. But new material typically does not get up to tried and true material, honed, perfected for a while. It takes weeks of doing it, and then suddenly the proper wording just finds itself.
Yeah, the tempo, the timing, right?
Everything, confidence in it, just the confidence in your voice that you're delivering it with knowledge that it's going to get.
But every bit has to be developed in for any professional. You know that you open with good material, you close with your strongest material, but in the middle's when you can try new stuff.
that's when you can slide stuff in and know the spots, know how you're going to get in and out of it with tried and true on the other side of the new bit. There's a strategy and there's experience of doing it. So 20 minutes in, I bring out this new that just happened, hours ago, and in my head, hadn't even written it out, 120% of it. It was like the most prolific response to anything that I've ever done.
Really?
Ever. I mean, it was just, it was just, magic, out of the box, huge, and it was such a unique concept. And you're excited. You've got this new bit, and nobody else could even come close to talking about this. This is so just you, and it could be the signature bit and whatever.
So you were rewarded.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just magic, and it was just exactly, what you want, in that nobody else, no other comedian was going to do anything like that. It just would sound totally like you.
Now, we've got to admit, though, Tim, in those days, there was a lot of drugs going around, and the whole talking cow thing, could have happened. But, this is your story.
This is past that era. This is not 70s. This is, later 80s or 90s. This is, so I do this bit, and it just sings. It just is, it's magic. And I can't wait for Wednesday night to bring out my new shiny toy. You'll remember me. I was the one that talked. About 20 minutes in, and it's a good crowd, nice crowd, doing well. I bring out the new bit. 50% of it. I don't know what happened. Maybe I just was too cocky. I should have written it out. So Thursday, I really kind of racked my brain, and I'm thinking about what did I do precisely on Tuesday night? What was the wording? And I write it out, and I'm prepared. And Thursday night, about 20 minutes in, I'm going to reclaim the glory of You'll Remember Me. I was the one that talked. 20% of that. It's dropping. I can't believe what's happening here.
So the bit's going down fast.
It's going down fast.
Now, what's interesting is in the concept of a new idea, like you said, you introduce it, and then you work on it, you hone it, you get the wording and the timing, and it's something that usually progresses and gets better and better and better. And in this particular, You'll Know Me, I'm the one talking, is going down fast.
Going down fast. And I'm working on it. And I'm trying, and I think Thursday night I did it exactly like I did Tuesday night. But it just, was not there at all. The Friday night, and it was just like the hottest of hot crowds. I mean, it was just nuancey stuff is getting out loud laughs, and it's just like the hottest crowd ever. And I can't wait to get to the 20-minute mark where I pull it out and I reclaim
victory. Certainly
this time, the glory of You'll Remember Me. I was the one that talked. And I launch into it, and I swear to God, 0.
Nothing now.
No response.
Went from huge hero to 0 in 4 days.
In 4 days. So I don't do the bit again. I just, it was just convinced it was a fluke. Now, literally, 14 years later, I'm driving up to your club. So career trajectory flat, but not going down. I'm still working.
No, you were a solid headliner.
Solid headliner, still working. And at that point, you were starting on Wednesday night. Nice crowd, having fun. I announced that my first ever comedy CD I'm going to be selling after the show. This is the first night I'm going to be selling it. And so I'm out in the bar with my little table, my CDs ready to sell. Couple comes up, man and wife. They bring in their 16-year-old son. They come up and they say, Tim, great show, love the show, but you didn't do the bit. Why didn't you do the bit? And I said, what's it? And they said, 3 of them in unison said, You'll Remember Me. I was the one that talked. And at the time, 14 years later, I was that me? I don't even remember that. And they said, yeah, it's the best bit ever. And the man the husband clicked off a George Carlin bit, I think a Richard Pryor bit, and that bit as his 3 favorite comedy bits. So now he's put me in this.
You're in great company there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I still don't remember the bit. And I said, "Are you sure it was me?" And he said, "Oh yeah." And they recited the bit. The 3 of them could do.
So that meant they had shared it with their kid. They thought it was so funny.
It went beyond that. It had become. They explained it was their family philosophy. It was their meaning of life. And if you couldn't apologize for something, the wife would say to the husband, "You'll remember me," and he would say, "I was the one that talked." And then
I'm never going to be able to drive. Over. Yeah, I'm never going to be able to drive I-5 past a cow truck and not think of that now.
So they're explaining this, how important it was to them, and they could always make each other laugh by just saying, "You'll remember I was the one that talked," and the whole thing. And as they're saying this, I'm kind of remembering it and coming back, and okay, that was me. And then I'm remembering how it played out that week. And then they kind of finish and say, "Tim, why didn't you do the bit?" And I said, "So 14 years ago, you were probably there on a Tuesday night, right?" And they said, "Yeah, we always come to the first night of the week." And I said, "Yeah, well, let me tell you what happened."
So they turned out to be the one audience
they were there
that really,
on the one night.
They felt the magic of the talking cow.
Yeah. And,
well, I think
I shouldn't have told them this, but I told them that I never did it again because by Friday night, people were looking at me like there's something wrong with this guy. So I thought they would just be interested in the comedic or how comedy works. But what I essentially did was that I told them that their family's philosophy and core personality was based on a fluke.
So you pretty much destroyed the family dynamic right there.
But they still bought the CD, and that's the important thing.
That's the important thing.
But this is how powerful it was. He I sign it. He turns away, and then he turns back, and he said, "So you'll remember me? I was the one that talked. It's not on here on the CD."
Oh, that's so funny.
Now, I had told them that I recorded it 6 months ago. This is the first CD. I haven't done the bit in 14 years. But he so still wanted. And I swear to you, of course, that Tuesday night, it was the funniest bit that I've ever done. But I couldn't reclaim it. I couldn't redo it. It just... Well, comedy can be that fickle. It was so important to them.
It was the oracle that they built their family around, and you basically dismantled it right in front of them. Instead, you should have just pretended. "Oh yeah, I remember that bit. It's a bit old." But what's interesting about comedy, and when you're on stage sharing something, is it's all about imagery, and the eye of the cow looking through the air hole is an image that everybody has probably seen driving one time or another that wouldn't think twice about it. And after hearing this story, we'll never see that image again. I mean, we'll always see that image different now. And now when you see a cow eye through an air hole, you're going to go, "I wonder if he can talk."
Yeah.
Well, that's a great...
I bet he wants out.
That's a great...
I bet he wants out.
Yeah, I bet he wants out. I'm sure they all do. I'm sure that was a good story from the Day of Laughs. Now, after... working as a headliner, you did use your background in radio and your sense of humor and your good sense of timing with comedy, and you tell great stories. You ended up developing a series called Vague But True. And audience, anybody listening to this podcast, you want to check it out. Vague But True has many, many episodes, and you should go Google it and find it. But for this particular podcast, Tim, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about Vague But True?
Well, when I got to San Francisco on the radio there, I always just loved little features, and that was very much a Carson influence thing where, they would do Karnak, Tea Time Movies, Dan Flabby, all those things. And so I had, in Sacramento, I had Mother's Little Helper. I don't know if you remember that, but I played a doctor who was giving bad advice on how to raise kids.
Well, always funny.
But always hopefully fun. One of them was for a stressed out mother, a game they can play with the little kids is Let's Go Camping, where mommy plays the part of a bear that has wandered into the campsite and the kids have to play dead. Otherwise, mommy will maul them. So they just lay quiet and don't make a sound. And then you get to leave and go have a cup of tea or a cigarette or something.
Yeah, I could see parents using that one. Well, so Vague But True was 2 to 4 minutes
was one
long.
of my features in San Francisco. I did on the radio, and it was a mock commentary just on various whatever topic, and then a radio station in Los Angeles bought it from me. I did it on public radio on a show called Marketplace. It's just a commentary, a humorous, hopefully, commentary on whatever.
Well, Tim, thanks to your generosity, I've got a couple Vague But Trues queued up. So I'm going to play a couple for the audience, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and relax and enjoy Vague But True.
Here he is, a philosopher, a writer, a comedian, a man who plays a golf ball the size of hail, the host of Vague But True, Tim Bedore. Well, thank you very much. Once again this year, my alma mater, the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, did not ask me to give the commencement address at their graduation ceremonies. Neither did any other university, junior college, or technical institute. If even a beauty college or bartending school had called, I would have been willing. Yet again this year, nothing. I did receive an invitation from the Minneapolis School of Massage and Bodywork, but when I showed up, they were not interested in me making a speech to their student body, but rather in my hiring one of their students to practice Rolfing my body. Yet undeterred, I am now here to give our nation's graduates the commencement address I annually prepare and no specific university has asked me to deliver.
All right.
Chancellor, insert real name here, distinguished faculty, Board of Trustees, and most importantly, graduates of the class of 2005. As I look out on your smiling, energetic faces, I have high expectations for your futures, but no, not all of you can change the world. In fact, from the look of it, I am not sure some of you can make change or toast. Being here today brings back fond memories of my own years in college and a philosophy final where an entire semester grade was determined by an essay question which asked, is the glass half full? And I simply wrote, yes, but of the wrong thing. And I got an A. So what is the value of a college education? A college education should give you enough common sense to know you can't sell life insurance with a spider tattooed on your face. And yet, as I look out on the class of 2005, I see many of you will not be living off commissions. Life is hard and your path will not be easy, but never give in to frustration. There is a Tibetan saying, even if you have failed at something 9 times, you have still given it effort 9 times. And this is a very productive way to look at life, unless you're a surgeon. Or an air traffic controller, or structural engineer, or my accountant, or, well, now I think we know why Tibet is a Stone Age country with bad plumbing. Okay, anyway, kids.
Good point.
Many commencement addresses are filled with high-flying rhetoric about the possibilities of the human spirit, which will be beaten out of you once you start working for the man.
Amen.
If you're lucky, you'll find full-time employment as a slave to the system, a system run by nerds, turds, and immoral nimrods. Management sucks, kids. Prepare to be very unimpressed. Yet I guarantee you will have a happy life if you get joy from your job, even though the odds are you will not believe how many times you'll actually want to murder a coworker. So don't look to find happiness in your work. Look to find happiness in your family and get them to help you buy rental property. For the true value of a man's wealth, the true value of a man's wealth is determined not by what he has in the bank, by what he will one day inherit from his family and then put in the bank and use to buy more rental property.
Yeah.
And never forget the story of the farmer who had a chicken and another chicken that was a little odd looking, but he was sure it was a chicken. It behaved like a chicken. It was pecking away like other chickens. So he treated it like a chicken until someone who was knowledgeable in these things said to the farmer, "That's no chicken. That's an eagle." And this knowledgeable man took the strange-looking chicken and climbed the mountain and said, "You are an eagle. Fly, eagle, fly." And the strange-looking chicken spread its wings and lifted off and soared and flew away into the distance. So I say to the class of 2005, rise to become eagles, not chickens. Unless, of course, you actually are an odd-looking chicken. And after you're done tumbling down the mountain, become some supposedly knowledgeable man tossed you off a cliff. Once you recover, start laying eggs. Lots of them. Because while it might be fun to be an eagle, there's lots of money to be made in eggs and rental property. From Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the introverts stare at their shoes and the extroverts stare at your shoes, I'm Tim Bedore on the Bob and Tom Radio Network. You've heard words to remember, words for young and old to hear, words of our national heritage, words Tim Bedore said on the radio. Yes.
Wow, the vague but true. That is such genius writing, Tim, and you were able to carry that on. Is that something that continues today? How many episodes of Vague but True have been produced?
So, well, what you heard is me on a morning radio syndicated program called the Bob and Tom Show that's out of Indianapolis, and at its peak was on 152, I think, stations across the nation.
That's a lot of listeners.
I hooked up with them, and in fact, there was a time where comics would tell you, you'll put more butts and seats in Des Moines or Peoria by being on Bob and Tom than you would by being on Letterman or Leno.
Oh, interesting.
So it just had this morning show.
They were that strong.
And it was that strong, and they had comics on all the time. And so every morning people tune in to hear us. So I did Vague but True on Bob and Tom from every week from 2003 to 2015. So 12 years. And
every week, so 52 times.
Every week a new
12
piece.
years, yeah.
So I was writing a new, 3, 4, 5 minute piece and doing it via remote from LA initially, and then from Minneapolis. What was interesting about Bob and Tom, I was doing a fresh piece. It wasn't stand-up, it was an essay. But they would have comics on, and if in conversation or if they were doing material to the group in the studio, if it went really well in the studio, they would replay that for years and years. I wouldn't think that stand-up could work that way, that you know what the joke is and still laugh, but they knew it. It was like songs. They would repeat bits. And so you didn't just do this as a one-off thing. I appeared on a Tuesday and it went well, but if you weren't listening on Tuesday, that's it. They would replay it for years. And so then their audience got to know 20, 30 comics that they focused on, myself included.
And Vague but True became a staple.
It became a staple, and they would, if it went well, like one of my pieces on the animal conspiracy did just go viral, they would play it all the time. And so then there became this tour. And we were going out for a good 10-year stretch and playing theaters, and 3, 4, 5 of us.
Was it you, Bob and Tom, and a couple comics?
It was Bob and Tom would almost never go out.
Oh.
Somebody from the show might be there to host.
But they were basically the hook to get people out.
They were yes. And it was a business,
okay.
And they were making money. They were making money. The station was making money in Des Moines or Casper, Wyoming or Portland, and the show was making money, and the comics were making money. And we would go in and each do, 25 minutes and 3, 4, 5 of us and sell out. In fact, one night we were in Fresno and we were there on a Saturday and sold out a 2,500 seat theater. George Carlin had been there the night before and didn't quite sell out.
Wow.
Which I felt bad about, but we were that potent. So it was just a terrific opportunity and time, and it kept me writing and every week.
Congratulations, Tim.
Yeah, no, it was great fun. It was great fun, and So then I made my website called Vague But True, and it was all basically animal stories because the animal conspiracy piece is the one that really went viral. And so that was a piece where I was claiming that various species of animals hate capitalism, hate the West, they hate us. They're trying to bring down the West and democracy, and they're led by the squirrel. And so I literally do a slideshow, a keynote address called An Inconvenient Horror, the Animal Conspiracy, where I show video and slides of why I believe
animals acting misbehaving.
Yes. And I've been doing that since 2003, and it's just been so much fun. So
that's great.
That's Vague But True, and I have a lot of the Bob and Tom appearances, and then some other pieces I put together just for the hell of it.
Well, Tim, you've been a huge success, and it's rewarding for me to know that it kind of started with our relationship on radio, led you into stand-up, working in the clubs, and then Vague But True. Now, I know because we talked about it a minute ago, but now you've got your own podcast. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your podcast and why they should listen?
Well, and I think personally it's the best thing that I've ever done.
You're happy with the writing then?
Yes, I'm just, and I'll tell you what, the genesis of it, and I was resisting doing a podcast. I still believed in radio and still, whatever. So then Robin Williams, however many years ago now, commits suicide, dies, and it really, I didn't know him well, but I was in San Francisco, and would see Robin all the time and knew him and thought the world of him as a person and a
comic genius, yes,
and just the nicest person. I mean, he just was a soulful.
Yeah, off stage,
nice
a lot of people don't realize that he was a real down to earth guy that would take the time to talk to anybody, really. Which a lot of entertainers, especially successful ones, get an air about him, an arrogance. And Robin, who did have to protect his privacy and didn't go crazy about it, but he always appreciated the support he got comedically from the audience and from the clubs and everybody.
And really just wanted to be one of the guys. He didn't want to be anything other than just another comic in the show. So in San Francisco, he would drop in on open mics. And in fact, a lot. He would do guest sets in shows on the weekend. He was around a lot. And almost, in fact, one of the reasons I was thinking about this, because I remember specifically a week in 82 or 83 when I was just starting in radio in San Francisco. And I don't even know if I'd moved up past open mic to MC, probably had. But Robin and his wife were expecting their first kid, and it was a difficult pregnancy. She was 2 weeks late, and they thought maybe the cord was wrapped, maybe it was going to be a problem, whatever. So it was tense. And instead of being at home, now get this, the plan was on a Friday and Saturday night, he was going to do guest sets in the 4 comedy clubs in San Francisco. He's going to do 5 minutes in this club, get off stage, go to the next one, do 5 minutes. 4 guest sets in 4 clubs on the weekend shows, which means that if you were emceeing at the first club, you would basically say, welcome. Hey, we've got a guest set, Robin Williams. He comes out and does 5-7 minutes. The crowd goes nuts. And now as an MC, you have to follow him.
Yeah,
he
not
did
easy.
4 guest sets on Friday night, first show, second show, and on Saturday, both shows. And people were thrilled with it, thought it was a great gimmick, and it was great. I kept thinking, why isn't he with his wife? Well, as it turns out, he had anxiety issues and fought depression. And if you've ever known a comic who's had depression, they will tell you that if they're having a bout, the only time that they feel good during their day is when they're on stage, because that's when they feel normal. Otherwise, then the depression hits. So
too much time to think when you're on stage. It's all natural reaction and thinking and talking. You get off stage and you have to, the rest of the world rushes in.
Yes, you're back to that thing that has taken you over. So being on stage is you're medicating. And that's what I think one of the things that he did stand up so much was that he was just medicating. Now, it was hugely beneficial to all of us because we got to see him, and clubs flourished because people were wanting to see Robin, and, he was so funny and whatever. But when he died, I just remembered thinking, and then it was clear that, he really did suffer from depression, that there is this driver for most comics. With him, it was that. But if you weren't popular or your parents didn't love you, there's a driver for a lot of comedians. And I never knew what mine was. I was not bullied, horribly. My parents loved me. I was popular enough, in school.
We all have issues, but yours weren't as deep.
I couldn't figure out what mine was. But then, and I'd always been told this, that when I'm on stage, and I would always close with a chunk, I'm growing up Catholic.
Exactly. I remember the bit.
People would always say, you're most alive and in the moment on stage when you're talking about religion and growing up Catholic. And I never knew the why of it, but now I kind of think I know the why of it. The church, and, I'm not making a statement on religion one way or the other. I am agnostic. I was, I think, born agnostic, but I grew up in this Catholic world where everybody was just thrilled to be there and filled with the Spirit. And I'm a 6-year-old kid looking up going, I'm not filled with the Spirit. And if you're not filled with the Spirit, you're going to hell. Because that's basically what they taught you.
Exactly,
so, yeah. I was afraid. And night after night after night, I'd be thinking about, the Green Bay Packers and why are the Braves leaving Milwaukee? And then it would just drift into, well, why do we have to fast before communion? If the host is a wafer and a cracker, why can't I have crackers in my stuff? And then oh my God, I'm thinking about it. I'm going to hell. And it would literally put me into a panic and kind of a nightmare.
You were a tormented child.
Yes. I mean, it traumatized me. It traumatized me just to be part of that world and not having bought into it or organically, feel it. So the church was my bully. It made me turn against myself in terms, and I never thought I was a bad kid or I was wrong. I knew I was a better kid than most of these kids. I wasn't stealing stuff but at the same time, I'm going to hell because I don't feel what they feel. And so, it took until about 7th, 8th grade when I made the break and kind of detached from the whole concept that they had this kind of control over me or whatever. But it was my driver. I mean, I really think that it was the bully that, made me most interested in getting back. And that's why I do this podcast. The first 3 or 4 episodes of an Agnostic's Guide to Heaven are telling the stories about growing up Catholic and all my little fears and these moments where I'm looking at adults thinking, man, they're either crazy or I'm going to hell.
Well, I remember your closing set always, just like every headliner, is your strong piece. And I think that when you talked about Catholicism and your relation with it, that the reason it was a strong piece was not only were you committed to it and that it was real for you, but a lot of people in the audience could relate to it. There's many of us that, I for one was dragged through the Catholic school system and dealt with it similar to what you did. And yet I'm not a churchgoer. I don't think I'm going to hell. Let's hope. But agnostic might be the definition that I fall in. I don't even think about it. But you were touching on something that everybody in the audience could relate to. Plus it was funny. Plus it was real. And that's why it was your closing bit.
Yes. And whether people, the goal for me always was that you could be a devout Catholic or Christian or Jewish or whatever, at least you'd recognize something of yourself in my thoughts, but recognize that, I'm not telling you you're wrong. It was just wrong for me. And one of the new pieces that I'm doing, and I just think it's true, that I say to people, and this is, kind of a new bit, so it's kind of fun to do, but let me give you an idea. If you don't know any Catholics, if you didn't grow up Catholic, let me give you an idea about the Catholic personality. We're the kind of people who willingly go into a dark booth and rat on ourselves in order to be punished. This is who we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of ironic and doesn't make sense, but we do it.
Yes. Without thinking, except for me. Of course, I was overthinking it, which is how I became a comedian, by overthinking things.
So your podcast, it comes from this background, but obviously each episode has got its comic sense to it.
Oh, yes. No, it's all for fun. I mean, it's really more or less a storytelling exercise framed as I'm a life coach and a spiritual guru. But it's stories that I couldn't tell in 2 or 3 minutes on Bob and Tom and never worked as stand-up, but they're stories I've always wanted to tell, including in ninth grade, I was roped back into, it's a long story, but I literally went to Boy Scout camp and got an archery merit badge on acid or mescaline, but that's a true story. There's a lot of these stories that I just have always wanted to tell, talk about, find interesting, humanly interesting. And I'm telling these stories as examples on how to live your life or what you can learn from mine. And by the way, if you follow my advice and you end up in hell because of anything that I said, total money back guarantee. Complete.
What more can the people ask for, really?
Exactly. I stand by my product.
You do. Well, it sounds like we're going to have to do another one of these interviews so that we can hear some of these stories. For right now, Tim, I'm going to break away. Everybody out there listening, be sure to check out Tim's podcast, Agnostic's Guide to Heaven. It sounds like
if you go to Stitcher or iTunes, you can either search it by me or an Agnostic's Guide to Heaven. And I'm not trying to really talk too much about religion. It's just storytelling and fun. And if you need a life coach who gives that advice.
Well, it's interesting that you're doing a podcast. I'm doing a podcast now. For me, my title is Celebrating 40 plus years on the fringe of show business. I really miss being active in business, and I had such a part of my life sharing with people like you, entertainers and staff members, and the whole comedy industry is a deep part of me. And I'm getting older. I'm a few years away from retiring, and this podcast really gives me an opportunity to not only share with the public what I think were special moments and stories, but it's really, means something to me. Does that kind of why you do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you got that bug, and it's not, people think that the thing is that you got the laughs and it's so, you feel good about yourself, or, you're on stage and so you have power or whatever. I don't think for most comics it's that. There is, like sports or anything else, if you're on a big stage, if you're in a tense moment, if you're in a endorphin-filled, adrenaline-rushing thing like stand-up or being Bruce Springsteen on stage or a guy in a bar doing a little rock show, there is just adrenaline, and there is connection, and there is energy from them coming back to you, and you're giving it back to them. And so it is not a normal job, and you'll never feel about most any other job the way you feel about this type of performance.
That's so true.
You know, you just, and the people that you went through and came up with, and, you know, you were in boot camp with, and were in the minor leagues, and then you got up and, you know, you worked into a spot where you're on TV and whatever. The people that you went through that with are, you know, your Army buddies. You went through the war together. You just have a relationship with them that you can't have with anybody else because you didn't go through
exactly.
these other.
Yeah, you mentioned it perfectly when you said it's a bond. It's, you know, I haven't talked to you in over 20 years, and I feel like I just saw you yesterday because there's a bond of what we went through together. And I felt that way with the old staff people I'm interviewing and other comics I've had the luck to interview. It's somewhat of a bringing up stories and memories from 40 years ago, 30 years ago. But it was like yesterday. There's such a connection.
Well, it is because it's so intense. I mean, every night you had a show, and every night the doors opened, and somebody had to walk out, and 28 people or 258 people were, you know, you had to do this thing night after night. It wasn't like, you know, you're running a pharmacy and you open the door and people come in and you know, get allergy pills and condoms. I mean, yes, it's gratifying, but, you know, you lock the door. You don't go home thinking I really did something. It was just your job, and it's a fine job. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not this intense.
Well, I think a lot of it's the creative aspect. You and I were talking about how it's you're sharing and interacting with people you don't really know, the audience, and other comics and other staff people, but the creative juices and off air, you and I were talking about, we're both getting to that retirement age or semi-retirement age, and how trying to connect with everything we've experienced over these last 40 years is something that feels like it's worth sharing, and it's a release of our creative juices.
Yeah. And so if you are a creative person, you can't retire from that. If you retire from the job where you get to be creative, you better find some other way to do it, because you are not being yourself, and you'll not be happy if you're not yourself. And if being yourself means being creative, then you better figure out a way to get that juice back out. And so, you know, for me, it's more about the writing. That's, you know, what I've always focused on and liked doing more than anything else. So I get to, you know, I write a 20-minute piece every couple of weeks and really finesse it. And, you know, after we get off the phone, I might go back to the computer and do it again.
Well, you're a really good writer and performer. For me, it was the producing. I always liked directing and producing and bringing talented people way more talented than me, but bringing them to an audience. And that's what allows me to do with this podcast. So, hey, everybody out there, be sure to check out Tim Bedore's podcast, The Agnostic's Guide to Heaven. Also, Google Vague But True and find some of those great short stories from the Bob and Tom Show. Thank you for listening today. I think, Tim, we're going to have to do another one of these down the road, but thank you so much for being on your host and MC, and we hope, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's been great catching up.
Oh, it's fun. Anytime. I'm more than happy to do this. It's just great fun to talk, and, you know, we got that bond, so
let's keep it going.
Let's not make it 20 years again.
No, we definitely won't. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Be sure to share, rate, review. We want to keep this going. And thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody. And next week, another episode comes out.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.